The great chamber on Nexus Prime stretched wide like a crystal cathedral. 12 alien species sat in their floating chairs, each one different from the others. Some had scales that caught the light. Others had fur or feathers or smooth skin that changed colors. At the center of it all stood one human man. Jake Murphy kept his face calm as he looked up at the council members. His gray hair was neat, and his uniform pressed clean. He had been Earth's voice to the galaxy for 10 years now. Today felt different. Today felt like an ending. The Cathari representative clicked its claws against the metal of its chair. Its bug-like eyes never blinked as it spoke in the common trade language that all species used. The human species has shown dangerous behavior, it said. Its voice sounded like grinding metal. They expand too fast. They ask too many questions. They do not follow the proper ways. Other council members made sounds of agreement. The Velthi floated in their water tank and changed from blue to angry red. The Zephyrians rustled their feathers and chirped in their high voices. Jake waited. He had learned that patience worked better than anger when dealing with aliens who lived for hundreds of years. Speaker Velthar rose from the center chair. The tall gray being had led the council for longer than humans had known about space travel. Its large black eyes showed no emotion as it looked down at Jake. Ambassador Murphy, Velthar said in a voice like wind through empty halls, the Galactic Council has made its decision about your species. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the life support systems. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Humanity will accept genetic changes to reduce their aggressive nature. Velthar continued. You will accept monitoring devices in your bodies. You will limit your reproduction to bloodlines we approve. These changes will make you safe members of galactic society. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. And if we refuse? The Cathari clicked its claws again. Then humanity will be expelled from all civilized space. No trade, no contact, no protection. You will face the darkness alone. Velthar nodded slowly. You have one standard month to decide. The Council's patience has limits. Miles away in space, Captain Lisa Carter received Jake's coded message on her ship, the New Frontier. She read it twice before calling her senior crew to the bridge. Chief Engineer Ryan Blake arrived first, wiping grease from his hands. Security Officer Amy Foster came next, her hand never far from her weapon. Navigation Specialist Tony Garcia brought up the rear, still holding a star chart. What's the emergency, Captain? Ryan asked. Lisa looked at each of them. These people had served with her for 5 years. They had explored new worlds together. They had saved each other's lives. Now she had to tell them their species faced extinction or slavery. The Council gave us an ultimatum, she said quietly. Submit to genetic modification and constant monitoring, or face total exile from galactic civilization. Amy's face went hard. They want to change us into something else. They want to make us safe, Tony said, but his voice showed he did not believe safety was worth the price. Ryan laughed, but there was no humor in it. Safe for who? Them or us? On Earth, Dr. Helen Shaw sat in her laboratory going through the Council's evidence files. As humanity's top expert on alien biology, she had clearance to see everything. What she found made her angry. The Council had cherry-picked their data. They showed every time humans had fought in self-defense but ignored every time humans had shown mercy. They counted human colonies spreading through space but did not mention how humans always asked permission first. They listed human questions about alien technology, but did not say that humans shared their own discoveries freely. Helen pulled up a specific file that made her pause. 2 years ago, human rescue ships had saved 3,000 Velthi civilians from a collapsing space station. The humans had risked their own lives and asked for nothing in return. That incident was not in the Council's evidence. She opened another file. 6 months ago, human doctors had worked for free to stop a plague on a Zephyrian world. Also missing from the evidence. The pattern was clear. The Council had already decided humanity was guilty. They were just looking for reasons to justify what they wanted to do anyway. President Alex Morgan called an emergency meeting of Earth's leaders. Representatives from Mars Colony joined by quantum communication. So did the leaders of Europa Station and the settlements around Alpha Centauri. "We all know what this really is," said Kate Williams from Alpha Centauri B. Her farming colony had been peaceful for 20 years. "They're scared of us. They want to cut out the parts of humanity that make us human." Admiral Steve Parker nodded from Luna Base. "My intelligence people have been watching Council fleet movements. They're already positioning ships around our colonies. This isn't a negotiation. It's a demand with guns pointed at our heads." The debate that followed was short. Earth's leaders had built something good among the stars. Human colonies were prosperous and free. Human explorers had found new worlds and shared them with other species. Human scientists had made discoveries that helped everyone. They would not trade their humanity for the Council's version of safety. Back on Nexus Prime, Jake Murphy stood before the Council once more. The month had passed quickly. Messages had flown between Earth and its colonies. The decision was made. "The human species thanks the Council for its generous offer," Jake said formally. "We respectfully decline." The chamber erupted. Aliens clicked and chirped and roared in a dozen different languages. Velthar raised one long arm for silence. "You refuse our wisdom?" the speaker asked. "We refuse to stop being human," Jake replied. The Cathari representative leaned forward. "Then you choose extinction." Jake looked up at the 12 species that ruled the galaxy. They were older than humanity. They were more advanced in many ways. But they had forgotten something important. "We choose freedom," Jake said quietly, "and we'll take our chances with the stars." President Alex Morgan stood at the head of the Global Assembly Chamber on Earth. Representatives from every human colony filled the seats before him. Others joined by quantum link from distant worlds. The blue glow of holographic projections showed faces from Mars, Europa, and the outer settlements. "We have hours, not days," Alex said. His voice carried to every corner of human space. "The Council's enforcement fleets are already moving toward our colonies." Kate Williams appeared on the main screen from Alpha Centauri B. Her agricultural world grew food for 6 other systems. Behind her, the golden fields of modified wheat swayed in an alien breeze. "They've already started," Kate said. 3 Council ships entered our system this morning. They're demanding immediate access to our genetic databases and population records. They say it's for our own protection." On Mars, Governor Dan Foster shook his head. "Same here. They want to install monitoring stations in all our major cities. They're not waiting for our answer because they think they already know what it will be." Lisa Carter watched the assembly session from her ship's bridge. The new frontier hung, in space between Earth and Luna, ready to move at a moment's notice. Her crew stood around her, listening to their species decide its future. "What do you think they'll choose?" Amy Foster asked quietly. Ryan Blake looked up from his engineering console. "I know what I'd choose. We didn't come this far just to give up everything that makes us who we are." Tony Garcia nodded toward the view screen showing Earth. "Look at what we built down there. Look at what we built out here. You think we're going to let them take that away?" On Luna Base, Admiral Steve Parker coordinated the movements of the human fleet. His aide, Commander Beth Taylor, marked positions on the tactical display as ships reported in from across human space. "All military vessels are pulling back to defensive positions," Beth reported. "Civilian transports are standing by for emergency evacuation orders." Steve studied the display. Red dots showed Council enforcement fleets moving toward human colonies. Blue dots showed human ships racing to intercept them. The dance was already beginning. "How long before they reach our outer settlements?" Steve asked. 18 hours for the closest ones," Beth replied. "Some of our people won't make it out if shooting starts." In his laboratory beneath Luna's surface, Dr. Carl Johnson made a discovery that changed everything. He had been studying the genetic modification technology the Council wanted to use on humans. What he found made his blood run cold. The modifications were not just designed to reduce human aggression. They would also eliminate the brain functions that drove curiosity, risk-taking, and individual creativity. Humans who underwent the process would become calm and obedient, but they would also stop being truly human. Carl activated his secure communication link to Earth. President Morgan's face appeared on his screen. "Mr. President, you need to see this," Carl said. "The Council isn't trying to make us safer, they're trying to lobotomize our entire species." He transmitted his findings. Charts and genetic diagrams filled the screen between them. The evidence was clear and horrifying. "They want to turn us into worker drones," Carl continued. "Humans who undergo this process will lose the ability to innovate, to question authority, to think independently. We'll become perfect citizens of their galactic order, but we won't be human anymore." Back in the Global Assembly, Alex Morgan shared Carl's findings with the representatives. The chamber fell silent as the true scope of the Council's plan became clear. "They're not trying to control our aggression," Alex said. "They're trying to control our minds." The vote was swift and unanimous. Every human colony, every settlement, every ship in space chose the same path. They would not submit to genetic slavery disguised as protection. Jake Murphy received the message while still on Nexus Prime. The Council had given him guest quarters while they waited for humanity's response. Now he had that response, and it would not be what they expected. He walked through the crystal corridors of the station. Alien beings moved past him, some nodding politely, others staring with curious eyes. In a few minutes he would deliver humanity's answer and change the course of galactic history. The Council chamber was full when Jake arrived. All 12 species were present, along with their advisors and military commanders. Speaker Velthar gestured to the center of the chamber. "Ambassador Murphy," Velthar said. "Have your people seen reason?" Jake stepped forward. He thought of Earth's green hills and blue oceans. He thought of human children playing in the domed cities of Mars. He thought of the farmers on Alpha Centauri, B and the miners in the asteroid belt. All of them had chosen freedom over safety, risk over certainty. "The human species has considered your offer carefully," Jake said. His voice carried clearly through the chamber. "We understand the genetic modifications you propose. We understand the monitoring systems you require. We understand the reproductive controls you demand." The Council members leaned forward. Victory seemed certain. "We respectfully decline," Jake said. The chamber exploded in alien voices. Some screeched in anger. Others clicked or chirped or roared. The Cathari representative rose from its chair, claws extended. "You refuse the wisdom of species that ruled the galaxy before your ancestors learned to make fire?" it demanded. Jake looked up at the 12 species that controlled the known galaxy. They were ancient and powerful. They had technologies humanity could barely understand, but they had forgotten something important about the nature of intelligence and growth. "We refuse to stop growing," Jake said calmly. "We refuse to stop learning. We refuse to stop being human." Velthar's black eyes showed something that might have been surprise. "No species has ever refused the Council's judgment." "Then you've never met a species like us," Jake replied. The Cathari commander hissed. "Your arrogance will destroy you. Without the Council's protection, you will face the dangers of the galaxy alone. Pirates, hostile species, cosmic disasters. You will beg us to take you back." Jake smiled for the first time since entering the chamber. "Maybe, but we'll face those dangers as humans, not as something else wearing human faces." Speaker Velthar stood slowly. "Then humanity is expelled from galactic civilization. No Council member may trade with you, communicate with you, or provide aid to you. You are alone in the darkness." "We'll make our own light," Jake said. As he walked from the chamber, Jake activated his personal communicator. His message went out on all frequencies, reaching every human ship and colony in space. "This is Ambassador Murphy. Operation Exodus is now active. All human assets are to withdraw from Council space immediately. We're going home and we're taking everything with us." Behind him, the Council members began to realize what humanity's refusal really meant. For the first time in 1,000 years, a species had chosen exile over submission. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans were pushed too far. The great human exodus began at dawn on Earth. Ships of every size lifted off from spaceports across the planet. Colony transports, cargo haulers, exploration vessels, and military ships all joined the massive convoy heading toward the edge of known space. Captain Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of the New Frontier as her ship led the first wave of evacuees. Behind her stretched a line of vessels that seemed to go on forever. Families, scientists, farmers, miners, and soldiers all leaving. The only homes they had ever known. "Jump coordinates locked in, Captain," Tony Garcia reported from his navigation station. "The outer rim systems are clear of Council presence." Lisa nodded. "Signal the convoy. All ships prepare for jump." The space around Earth filled with the blue-white flash of jump drives activating. One by one, human ships disappeared into hyperspace, carrying their people toward an uncertain future in unexplored space. On Mars, systems engineer Paul Roberts worked frantically in the main control center. His job was to make sure nothing useful remained for the Council forces that would arrive in hours. "Orbital Platform 7 is clear," he reported to his team. "Detonation in 30 seconds. Through the viewports, Paul watched the space platform explode in a brief star of light. The research station had developed new metal alloys that made human ships faster and stronger. Now it was debris floating in the Martian sky. "That's the last of them," said his assistant Maria Santos. "All the platforms are down. Database cores, wiped. Even the backup files are gone." Paul felt sick watching years of human achievement turn to scrap metal. But he knew it was necessary. The Council could not be allowed to benefit from human technology and innovation. Dr. Helen Shaw raced through her laboratory on Europa Station, gathering genetic samples and research data from dozens of alien species. If humanity was going to survive in exile, they would need every advantage they could get. "How much more time do we have?" she asked her assistant, Dr. Mike Collins. Mike checked his chronometer. "Council ships will be in sensor range in 2 hours. Our transport leaves in 90 minutes. Helen sealed another container of genetic material. "We can't leave any of this behind. 20 years of xenobiology research, cures for diseases that affect half the galaxy, medical advances that could save millions of lives." "The Council made their choice," Mike said quietly. "They want us gone. They lose our research too." The last human transport lifted off from Europa as Council enforcement. Ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. Behind them, the research station's self-destruct sequence activated, erasing decades of scientific progress in a flash of nuclear fire. Council War Chief Zektar watched the destruction from the bridge of his flagship, the massive alien War battle armor that gleamed red in the starlight. His species had evolved from predators, and he understood warfare better than diplomacy. "The humans are being very thorough," he told his aide. "They're not leaving anything useful behind." His aide, a younger warrior named Kavrin, studied the tactical display. "Should we pursue their evacuation fleets?" Zektar considered this. The Council had ordered humanity expelled, not destroyed. But something about the human withdrawal bothered him. It was too organized, too efficient for a species that was supposed to be primitive and chaotic. "No," he decided. "Let them run to the rim. The galaxy is vast and dangerous. They'll learn why civilized species need the Council's protection." Admiral Steve Parker commanded the human rear guard from his flagship, the Defender. His job was to buy time for the civilian evacuation, fighting delaying actions against Council forces across human space. The battle at Beta Station lasted only minutes. Human ships used hit-and-run tactics, striking fast and disappearing before the Council could respond effectively. Parker's destroyers crippled 2 Council cruisers and escaped without losses. "All civilian transports are clear of Sector 7, Commander Beth Taylor reported. "We can withdraw to the next position." Parker studied the tactical display. Red dots showed Council ships moving into human space like a slow tide. Blue dots showed his own forces falling back in good order, always staying one step ahead of the enemy. "Send the withdrawal signal," Parker ordered. "Phase 3 begins now." At the rim of human space, Jake Murphy stood in the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel Peacemaker. Through the viewport, he could see the lights of human ships stretching into the darkness. Millions of people leaving everything they had, built to start over in unknown territory. "Any regrets, Ambassador?" asked Captain Nancy Wright, the ship's commander. Jake thought of the crystal chamber on Nexus Prime where he had delivered humanity's refusal. He thought of Speaker Velthar's black eyes and the Council's arrogant certainty that no species would ever choose exile over submission. None, Jake said. We made the right choice. The convoy jumped to hyperspace in waves, each group heading for different coordinates in the unexplored rim. Some would establish new colonies on distant worlds. Others would become mobile fleets, never staying in one place long enough for the Council to find them. On the Council world of Serenity Prime, the alien leaders received reports of humanity's withdrawal. The Velthi Commerce Guild representative floated in its tank, colors shifting from blue to worried purple. The economic impact will be significant, it reported. Human colonies were major buyers of our manufactured goods. Human traders carried our products to markets we couldn't reach ourselves. Speaker Velthar dismissed the concern with a wave of one long arm. Trade routes can be replaced. The security threat has been eliminated. The Cathari representative clicked its claws against its chair. Good. The galaxy is safer without their chaotic influence, but in the depths of space, other eyes watched the human exodus with interest. The Zephyrian merchant Prince Velkiar commanded a small fleet of traders who had worked closely with human colonies for years. He had seen what humans could accomplish when they put their minds to it. Send a coded message to the human fleet, he told his communications officer. Tell them the Zephyrian free traders remember their friends. Similar messages went out from other species. The Arcturus Mining Consortium, the Independent Worlds Alliance, the Outer System Explorers Guild. Not all of the galaxy's inhabitants belonged to the Council, and many of them had learned to respect human determination and innovation. Captain, Lisa Carter received these messages as her convoy established its first base camp in a nebula beyond the galactic rim. The New Frontier and 50 other ships hung in space, surrounded by clouds of glowing gas that would hide them from Council sensors. We're not as alone as the Council thinks, she told her crew. There are others out here who remember what we've done for them. Ryan Blake looked up from his engineering station, where he was already designing improvements to their ship's systems. Good, because we're going to need friends for what comes next. Amy Foster checked her security screens showing the perimeter scouts. What comes next? Lisa smiled as she looked out at the nebula's swirling colors. We show the galaxy what humans can do when nobody's holding us back. Behind them, in the space they had abandoned, Council enforcement fleets found empty worlds and dead stations. The humans had taken everything valuable and destroyed everything they couldn't carry. Not a single useful piece of technology remained. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Galactic Council had driven out a member species. They congratulated themselves on removing a threat to galactic stability. They had no idea what they had really done. 5 years had passed since humanity disappeared beyond the rim of known space. The Galactic Council sat in their crystal chamber on Nexus Prime, discussing the success of their decision. Speaker Velthar's black eyes showed satisfaction as he reviewed the reports. The human problem has been solved, he announced to the assembled representatives. Peace and order have returned to civilized space. The other council members made sounds of agreement. The Cathari representative clicked its claws in approval. The Velthi Commerce Guild floated peacefully in their tanks, colors showing contentment. But outside the council chamber, the galaxy was changing in ways they had not expected. On the trade world of Kepler Station, Merchant Captain Torval of the Arcturus Mining Consortium watched his cargo hold empty. Pirates had hit 3 of his ships in the past month. The trade routes that humans had once protected were now hunting grounds for raiders and thieves. Where are the council enforcement fleets? Torval asked the station commander. Commander Yul Seth, a member of the Peaceful Assembly, spread his forearms in a gesture of helplessness. They say they're spread too thin. Too many systems need protection now that the humans are gone. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. The Zephyrian farming world of New Harvest sent desperate messages to the council. Cathari raiders had attacked their grain shipments 5 times in 2 months. Before the human exodus, such attacks had been rare. In the council's treasury chambers, Minister Yulvan studied the financial reports with growing concern. His species had managed galactic finances for centuries, and the numbers told a troubling story. Defense spending has increased by 40%, he reported to his staff. Member worlds are demanding more protection services. Our enforcement fleets are operating at maximum capacity. His aide, a young economist named Peltran, highlighted sections of the data. The problem is coverage, Minister. When the humans were active, their patrol routes covered the outer systems. Now our ships have to protect twice as much space with the same number of vessels. Yulvan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the cold chamber. What about trade revenues? Down 18%, Peltran replied. Human colonies were major buyers of manufactured goods. Human traders carried our products to markets in the outer systems. Without them, entire trade networks have collapsed. Far beyond the galactic rim, humanity was building something new. On the world they called Haven's Rest, Colony Director Susan Lewis walked through streets lined with buildings that mixed human architecture with alien influences. The settlement was home to 50,000 people from a dozen different species. The Morning Reports Director, said her assistant, bringing her a data pad. Susan read the updates with satisfaction. Food production was up 20%. The new fusion plants were providing clean energy to the entire colony. Most importantly, the Deep Space Scouts had found something remarkable. Captain Gary Mitchell's ship, the Wanderer, had discovered ruins on a world 3 systems away. The archaeological evidence suggested an ancient civilization that had once spanned the stars. Computer records, partially decoded, told a familiar story. Thousands of years ago, this species had faced a choice similar to humanity's ultimatum. They had been told to submit to genetic modification for the good of galactic peace. Unlike humanity, they had agreed. The modifications had worked exactly as intended. The species became peaceful, obedient, and stable. They also stopped innovating, stopped exploring, and slowly faded from the galaxy. Their last record spoke of a quiet extinction, not through war or disaster, but through the simple loss of everything that made them who they were. Dr. Carl Johnson studied these records in his mobile laboratory aboard the research vessel New Horizon. Without the Council's restrictions on dangerous research, human science had advanced at an incredible pace. Breakthrough discoveries in quantum mechanics, faster than light communication, and energy production had revolutionized human technology. The Council was right to fear us, Carl told his research team. Not because we're violent, but because we never stop growing. His latest project involved quantum communication networks that could connect human settlements across vast distances instantly. The technology would allow scattered human colonies to work together as if they were in the same star system. Back in Council space, the first cracks in their alliance began to show. The Velthi Commerce Guild held a secret meeting with representatives from the Independent Worlds Alliance, a group of species that had never joined the Council. We need to discuss the human situation, said Guild Speaker Mirthal, his color shifting to worried purple. Our trade networks are failing without their participation. The Alliance representative, a sharp-eyed being named Kethmore, leaned forward. We've been monitoring human activity in the Rim territories. They're not just surviving out there, they're thriving. Mirthal's tank bubbled with agitation. What do you mean? New technologies, Kethmore replied. Quantum communicators, advanced propulsion systems, energy weapons that make Council military hardware look primitive. They've had 5 years to develop without restrictions. The Guild Speaker's color shifted to deep blue, indicating serious concern. The Council banned contact with the humans. But what if we made unofficial contact? That would be treason against the Council, Kethmore pointed out. That would be good business, Mirthal corrected. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. Species that had traded with humans, worked with humans, or simply respected human achievements began to question the Council's decision. On the Council world of Serenity Prime, the first signs of real trouble appeared. A Cathari battle fleet had launched a coordinated attack on 3 member worlds simultaneously. The Council's enforcement fleets, spread thin across the galaxy, could not respond effectively. Emergency council session was called for the first time in 50 years. The 12 species gathered in their crystal chamber, but the mood was very different from their meeting 5 years earlier. The Cathari swarm is moving against us, reported War Chief Zektar, his red armor showing damage from recent battles. They've been building their forces while we've been trying to maintain order across the galaxy. Speaker Velthar's black eyes showed concern for the first time in decades. How many worlds are under attack? 17 confirmed, Zektar replied. More reports coming in every hour. They're hitting our outer colonies first, the ones that used to be protected by human patrol routes. The Peaceful Assembly representative, Ambassador Trelnok, spoke up with a suggestion that sent shockwaves through the chamber. Perhaps we should consider seeking human assistance. The silence that followed was deafening. The Cathari representative hissed in anger. You would ask those primitives for help? Those primitives had better early warning systems than we do. Trelnok replied calmly. Their rapid response fleets could reach trouble spots in hours, not days. Velthar raised one, long arm for silence. The human threat was correctly identified and eliminated. The Council can handle its own problems. But even as he spoke, reports continued to flood in. The Cathari attack was larger and better coordinated than anyone had expected. Worlds that had enjoyed peace for centuries were burning. In the Rim, Territories Captain Lisa Carter stood on the bridge of her new ship, the Liberty's Edge. The vessel was twice the size of her old New Frontier and incorporated 5 years of unrestricted human innovation. Her crew monitored Council communication channels, listening to the growing panic. Should we respond to their distress calls? Asked Amy Foster, now her first officer. Lisa looked out at the stars beyond the viewport. Somewhere out there, people were dying while the Council that had exiled humanity struggled to protect them. Not yet, she said quietly. But get me a secure channel to Admiral Parker. It's time to remind the galaxy what happens when you underestimate human determination. The Council had thought they were removing a threat to galactic stability. Instead, they had removed the one force that had been keeping that stability intact. The galaxy was about to learn the difference between human aggression and human justice. The Galactic Council faced the worst crisis in their 1,000-year history. The crystal chamber on Nexus Prime filled with panicked voices as reports flooded in from across civilized space. The Cathari swarm had launched their greatest offensive ever, hitting 47 member worlds in a coordinated assault that shattered the Council's defenses. Speaker Velthar stood at the center of the chamber, his tall gray form trembling as he read the casualty reports. Millions were dead. Entire colonies had gone silent. The Council's enforcement fleets were scattered and overwhelmed. How did they coordinate such an attack? Demanded the Velthi Commerce Guild representative, his colors flashing angry red in his tank. War Chief Zektar, his red armor blackened by battle damage, answered grimly, They've been planning this for years. While we spread our forces thin trying to patrol the space humans used to protect, they built the largest war fleet in galactic history. Ambassador Trelnok of the Peaceful Assembly spoke the words, Everyone was thinking, but no one wanted to say. We need human help. The chamber erupted in alien voices. Some species clicked in anger. Others chirped in fear. The Cathari representative, whose own people were leading the attack, hissed with satisfaction. The humans were the real threat, Speaker Velthar insisted, his black eyes showing desperation despite his words. They were violent and unpredictable. The Cathari are destroying our worlds right now, Trelnok replied. The humans never did that. The vote was close, but the hardliners won. The Council would not seek human assistance. They would handle the crisis themselves, even as their civilization burned around them. In the Rim territories, Captain Lisa Carter received the intercepted Council communications aboard her ship, the Liberty's Edge. Her crew listened to the debates with grim satisfaction. They'd rather die than admit they were wrong, said Amy Foster, shaking her head. Lisa studied the tactical displays showing the Cathari offensive. The bioships of the swarm were tearing through Council defenses like paper. Worlds that had known peace for centuries were under siege. Prep the ship for combat operations, Lisa ordered. And send a message to all human fleet commanders. Operation Lighthouse is now active. Ryan Blake looked up from his engineering station. The Council expelled us. Why should we help them? Lisa pointed to the display showing a burning Zephyrian colony world. Because those people down there never voted to exile us. They don't deserve to die because their leaders were too proud and too scared. Captain Gary Mitchell's exploration ship, the Wanderer, was the first to respond. His vessel had been investigating ancient ruins when the call came. Within hours, he was leading a volunteer force of 12 human ships toward the besieged world of Serenity Prime. The battle that followed changed galactic history. The Cathari bioships were massive living creatures bred for war, their organic hulls able to repair damage and adapt to enemy weapons. For 50 years they had been considered nearly invincible. Human ships equipped with 5 years of unrestricted technological development proved otherwise. Lisa Carter's Liberty's Edge fired the first shot. Her new plasma lance weapons cut through the bioship's living hull like a hot knife through butter. The creature's scream echoed across space frequencies as it died. Target the neural clusters, Lisa ordered over the fleet communication channel. These things are alive. Kill the brain and the body follows. Human quantum disruptor fields confused the bioship's nervous systems. The creatures, bred to fight traditional energy weapons and kinetic projectiles, had no defense against weapons that attacked their ability to think and coordinate. The rescue of Serenity Prime took less than 6 hours. 12 human ships destroyed a Cathari assault force of 60 bioships without losing a single vessel. On Nexus Prime, the Council watched the battle reports in stunned silence. Speaker Velthar read the tactical analysis 3 times before. He could believe it. "How is this possible?" he whispered. War Chief Zekthar studied the weapon signatures with professional interest. Their technology has advanced beyond ours. 5 years of unrestricted research and development. We held them back and now they're generations ahead of us. The Cathari representative rose from its chair, claws extended in rage. "This changes nothing. The swarm has thousands of bioships. A few human raiders cannot stop us." But the human response was just beginning. Admiral Steve Parker arrived with the main human battle fleet 3 days later. 50 advanced warships, each one incorporating breakthrough technologies that the Council had banned as too dangerous. The second battle of Serenity Prime lasted 12 hours. When it ended, the entire Cathari assault force was destroyed. Their bioships floated dead in space, victims of human quantum weapons that disrupted the very bonds holding their living tissue together. The Council's surrender came by formal diplomatic message. Speaker Velthar's image appeared on screens. Across human space, his pride finally broken by necessity. The Galactic Council formally requests assistance from humanity against the Cathari threat, he said, each word clearly painful to speak. "We are prepared to negotiate terms." Admiral. Parker's response was broadcast on all frequencies. "The terms are simple: complete autonomy for humanity, recognition of all human territorial claims, a formal apology for the attempted genocide, and Council acceptance that humanity will never again submit to genetic modification or monitoring." "And, in exchange?" Velthar asked. "We'll consider providing limited assistance against existential threats to galactic civilization," Parker replied. "But we do it our way, with our technology, under human command." The negotiations took place on neutral ground, a space station in the Independent Worlds Alliance territory. Dr. Helen Shaw led the human delegation, her 5 years of exile having transformed her from a researcher into a skilled diplomat. Across the table sat the broken representatives of the Galactic Council. Their 1,000-year dominance of civilized space had ended in a few short weeks of human intervention. "You feared our capacity for violence," Helen said as she signed the new accords. "But you never understood our capacity for growth. We don't seek to dominate the galaxy. We seek to flourish alongside all peaceful species." She looked directly at Speaker Velthar. "But the next time you mistake strength for threat, remember what happened when you tried to chain the stars themselves." The new galactic order was very different from the old. Humanity established the first joint human-alien colony on a world they called New Geneva. Species that had been oppressed under council rule found new freedom under human protection. Jake. Murphy, now an old man with white hair and deep lines around his eyes, walked through the gardens of New Geneva. Human children played alongside young Zephyrians, Velthi, and members of dozens of other species. The sound of their laughter echoed off the dome walls. "Any regrets, Ambassador?" asked his aide, a young woman named Rachel Green. Jake watched a human girl share her lunch with a young Arcturus Mining Consortium member, their friendship crossing the barriers of species and biology. "None," he said. "We walked away from their ultimatum and forced them to confront their own limitations. The price of underestimating humanity wasn't our doom. It was their awakening to the value of diversity and innovation. Above them, human and alien ships worked together to patrol the trade routes. The galaxy was safer now, protected not by the rigid control of the Council, but by the dynamic cooperation of free species working toward common goals. Humanity had chosen freedom over security, growth over stagnation, and the risk of the unknown over the certainty of oppression. In doing so, they had not only saved themselves, but transformed the entire galaxy. The stars belonged to everyone now, and they burned brighter for it.